Oh, hello. Hey, straight
Hello,
in.
hello.
I didn't get a warning, but hello everyone. Welcome. With if you're familiar, we always usually start at 11 a.m. Pacific time. It is now 12 a.m. your time to you all. So we are an hour late, but it's the normal time in UK and in Europe. So we'll get used to that. It's gonna sync back at some point in the next couple of weeks.
Hopefully, I think it's on Sunday, right? We're only it's normally just like one. I know. Yeah, we're in this weird phase where America and Europe is out of sync, or no, we're in sync, but you know,
this Sunday or next Sunday, I never know.
I think it's this weekend. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Hey, John's Walk alias. You're on every stream. I'm going to start calling you John because it's just simpler. Yeah, we had a message from a colleague who was also wondering when we were getting started. So yeah, back to the start. Welcome everyone. We're here anyway. I'm Arlemi, developer advocate at Postman. I'm based in London. I'm here today with my colleague Sean. First, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yep. Hey everyone, I am Sean. I am also a developer advocate with Postman. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, but I am in snowy Vermont this week.
And also here with Andy from Twitter.
Hello. I'm really excited to join both of you and the Postman team. My name's Andy Piper. As you can see in my Twitter handle that I've added conveniently in my description there. I've been working at Twitter on DevRel for almost exactly 7 years, which is a long time, and I love it. And I've become friends with the folks from Postman over the last couple of years, particularly. I think I joined a live stream that Sean was doing a few weeks ago, and he was talking about Galaxy and doing some stuff with the Twitter API, and I was furiously typing in the chat, no, you should do this way. And I'm delighted to have a chat with you today.
Yeah, that's kind of how this stream and hopefully more streams kind of get to life as well. Just like talking with people on the chat and realizing there's something to explore, which is so because this stream kind of get to life from not a random conversation, but something that wasn't really like defined. We called it search for the hidden gems in the Twitter API. You may all be wondering what this means. We may be wondering what it means. We're probably going to figure it out during the stream. But before jumping into that, I'll do a quick in case you missed it. So if we actually have Joyce hiding somewhere behind us, she's kind of handling the magic of changing screens, etc. So let me remove this because I know she hates it. So in case you missed it, there's no new features, nothing new in Postman. In the app, at least, there's a few things that I do want to mention. If you're not aware, we have a blog where we post a lot of things around Postman. So if you can't be on the stream to know what you've missed, you can just go in the blog and kind of figure it out. So some content that's coming out of Postman Galaxy, just like Andy mentioned. So that was one of the panels that we had about like, the future of GraphQL. So if you go and look at that, it's pretty interesting. If you're into GraphQL, just like general APIs, and some more things, but one that I do mention is this one, which was posted like a week ago, probably. It's the Postman Supernovas program. So you may know quite a few tech companies have some champion program. That's ours. So if you're passionate about APIs, know about Postman, want to talk about it to other people, I would recommend checking out that blog, and I'll post it in the chat, or Joyce will. and have a look, see how you can help us and how we can help you. And hopefully you become part of our family of Supernovas, along with Valentin, Carson, and all the rest that you may have seen at some of our conferences. Other thing, quickly, Joyce just announced all the April streams. So we have 4 lined up. Oh, we have too many lined up. Well, because this includes the office hours. The first one she's going to do with Director of Marketing at Postman, Whitney Powell, about picking an outfit of the day. So I think they're going to play with the Instagram API and some, I don't know, doing some analysis and some maybe training of like what you like, what you don't like, and it's going to return some what you could wear for the day.
It reminds me of, did you ever see Clueless, Arlemy, the movie Clueless?
No.
Arlem is far too young.
Fair enough. Yeah, there was just a scene where the main character had this app that picked her outfits, and it reminds me of that, and I'm excited to see that one.
We should. Okay, that stream has a new name now. It is Clueless, but with APIs.
Perfect.
Then we have, so as you can guess, Joyce does all the writing for this, because I can't come up with all these titles. The next one is creating a graphical giraffe app with Microsoft Graph. Again, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but someone from Microsoft is going to come around and then do a graphical giraffe app. Then I'll be doing one of our colleagues created a quick browser-based game that you play through APIs to move your characters and interact. So we're going to create non-playable characters in that game that are run by monitors. So what we mean by that is that these characters are going to have a route and set type of actions they do with the actual characters, or like you as a player. So that's another one we're going to do. The next one, take your child to work to play with APIs. So we were actually discussing before this stream with Andy around like the different rules there are around streams, etc. Turns out you can't have kids on streams. So it's just going to be Joyce and I pretending to be kids, pretty much. No, not quite, but we'll do a stream that is towards kids, so kind of not dumbed down APIs, but like an easy way you can use Postman with APIs, etc.
Yeah, you and Joyce don't need to pretend.
Should I say thank you? I don't know. And then inspecting the most common song lyrics. So I'll be back with our content marketing editor, Linda, and we're going to use an API around song lyrics, and just going to see if we see like some repeating themes, etc. There's this famous thing about these 4 chords, 4 songs, which you can play like tons, like thousands of songs just using these 4 chords. So pretty much the same thing, but with API. And I can see that Joyce mistyped Bieber. I'm not a belieber, I think they're called, but this is bad.
Our Canadian friends will be upset.
Yeah, we're gonna get snapped for that. We need to get that corrected. Okay, so that's the info. In case you missed it, the links are in the chat if you're interested in the future streams or Postman Supernovas. Go and check it out. Someone tells me it's pronounced giraffe like GIF. Well,
can I say I attended some of Galaxy, not all of Galaxy, and I really enjoyed it. I just want to say that
thank you
to everybody. I thought that a few things. I'm really excited about the technology that Postman has in terms of the tooling, which is obviously what I use day to day. The chat that Kin had with Steve
Wozniak.
Thank you. With what was amazing, and my brain was blanking just then. That was really fun because I grew up around the time that Apple was booting up, and that was really, really neat. And I've said to you all backstage on the stream, but I'll say to others, I thought that you did a good job with Galaxy of sort of having a back channel and having an offline experience that wasn't sort of if you weren't directly watching one of the particular presentations, I thought that was really fun. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not saying it just to be a fanboy, but I am saying it because I genuinely, as a technologist, I got a lot out of it. So thanks.
Yeah, I think Joyce just posted actually the highlights from this chat that you just mentioned from Keenan and Wozniak. And there's another link we can share later with all the videos, or at least all the ones that we were allowed to publish from Postman Galaxy. So just as Andy mentioned, even if you were not there, you can catch up later with most of the talks. Cool. So now let's get into the real deal, the Twitter API and what Sean did with it. So this conversation came around, as I mentioned, from Sean, who actually for Postman Galaxy did a quick project using Twitter. So Sean, do you want to walk us through what you did and what you couldn't or could do with it?
Yeah, sure. I will point out John's work alias has a good point. So we'll be doing a little bit of stuff with the Twitter API today. We'll kind of go through some of that stuff. So if you want to follow along at all, we'll have a workspace that you can fork and do that. You will need a Twitter API key. So feel free, if you haven't set up a Twitter developer account, to go for it and do that. And yeah, so I will kind of introduce where this talk kind of came from. As Andy was saying, I was kind of bragging about something I did with the Twitter API that I thought was really clever, and thought I found a way to do something that you weren't either supposed to or wasn't able to do. And as Andy said, he was they were typing in the chat pretty furiously, sending all these links of stuff. So ultimately, what I was trying to do was, as we talked about, we had Postman Galaxy, which was our big conference, a lot of speakers, a lot of workshops, and we figured a lot of people in the community might be talking about Postman. So we wanted to keep track of everything people were saying. And we had a specific hashtag that we asked people to tweet about. It was hashtag Postman Galaxy. And one of the things Joyce asked me to do was create kind of a Twitter hashtag bot search type thing. I don't have a better title for it, but that's really kind of what it did. And so really anytime somebody posted anything with that hashtag, we wanted to capture that and have it automatically piped into a Slack channel that we had, 10 or 15 of our folks kind of monitoring and keeping track of, just to see what people were saying about Postman Galaxy. And the Twitter API, so this is the first time I'd really played with it. It is one of the two most popular APIs that folks use in Postman. Joyce has yet to reveal the number 2 API to me, so I still don't know. So if anybody that's watching can guess what the second most used API is in Postman, I'm sure there's some sort of cheap and disappointing prize available.
Did you have guesses already? Because I have a guess.
I guessed Twilio, which was not correct apparently.
I would have said Salesforce, because they already have a very vibrant public workspace. But I don't know. Let's give it to the audience.
Give it to the audience. Yeah. Both wrong. Wow.
Oh, boom.
Stripe. Jeremy says Stripe.
Stripe's a pretty popular one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm very, very happy and excited that Twitter's high on the list, but I am equally as curious. And Joyce, is going to tease us with this for.
I even brought it up in our one-on-one meeting. I said, Joyce, you have to tell me. It's driving me crazy. She said, nope, just keep finding out on the stream. See if anybody can guess. But yeah. Anyway, so we were trying to get all these tweets captured and sent into Slack. And so, if somebody tweeted, so if Arlemy, for example, tweeted, having so much fun at hashtag Postman Galaxy, we wanted to get that information. And we wanted to get, obviously, not only what people were saying, but we wanted to know who was saying it, so we could kind of, follow along, maybe follow them, tweet back at them, say something. And what I found when I was in the Twitter API, obviously there's tons and tons of information available. And Andy, I'm sure you can, help us dive more into that. But I found that I was able to get, when I was pulling information for the tweets based on a hashtag, I was getting the user ID. So which is just a series of numbers that each, user has, but not necessarily their username or their handle. And so I was wondering if it was because I had basic access that I couldn't find it. And it turns out there's a way to do it, but I ended up having to make a second API call And I thought I was very clever stringing these bits of information from my first API call, doing it again, and then kind of collecting it together to make that post to Slack.
Yeah,
and Andy was
exactly, Sean. Yeah. So let's draw a line, just for folks listening, and I won't spend a ton of time on this because we want to get to some fun stuff and start to drive some APIs. But Twitter is 15 years old as of this year. The API has been around since 6 months after it started, so 14 and a half years. API v1, v1.1 has been the main way that people have used the API and the platform as a developer for the last 10 years, for sure. But about a year ago, 18 months ago, we launched V2 of the API. And when we launched V2 of the API, we decided that we would make a Postman collection and enable people to test things out and use some useful tooling to drive the API. So that was cool, and I'm excited to work with Postman and other tools to enable people to test drive the API. Now, it is different. So previously in v1.1, if you got a tweet, you got a big blob of JSON that contained the text of the tweet, the time it was posted, the ID of the tweet, the ID of the you got what we call the user object embedded inside the tweet object, which was useful and cool, but a lot of people don't always need all of that information. So with V2 of the API, which is available now, it's not, I'm sure we'll come on to it, it's not completely covering all of the features right now, but we'll get there. When you make a call to the API, you basically say, I would like to know, when you get a tweet, you get just the ID and the text, I believe. And if you want more fields, then you have to say, I would like to know the time it was posted and the user ID and so on. So we have a thing called fields in the V2 API, and we have something called expansions. Sean, sorry. Yes, please.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna. So maybe Sean, you can share your screen and we can start actually making these calls as we talk about it. And then my question was it sounds like you're describing kind of like a GraphQL API, but it's
GraphQL.
It's not GraphQL.
So let me address that head on. You're absolutely right. We do use GraphQL internally for our internal APIs. We chose, the engineering team and the product team chose not to expose the entire GraphQL interface as the V2 API. So one reason is that we wanted people who are familiar with a RESTful non-query based API to be able to get up and running fast. And again, we've got this huge and rich and deep history of people building stuff on Twitter. So we didn't want to force everybody to use GraphQL all at once. There are also, frankly, some questions about when you put up a GraphQL interface, the amount of information that provides. So we wanted to make sure that we knew how much, which specific data we could let people get access to. You are right, though. You're completely right. The ability to request specific fields, bits of information, is a very GraphQL-like, and that was what this was modeled on.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I was seeing how obviously the V2 has been released some time ago, and you're kind of adding features as you go, right? So obviously you can't just give it all from the start because I mean, I'm guessing is that for gathering feedback that you're doing that and then building on top of that feedback?
I mean, there's a really long answer, a really short answer. But the stuff that's being built as V2 is being built new as an interface to the backend systems. Back in the day when Twitter launched in 2006-07, they essentially gave access to the backend systems in the API directly, and then there was a period, probably 4 or 5 years after that, when the fail well was a thing, and people were hitting the API because nobody at Twitter knew who was calling the API, and we didn't have any control over how that capacity was managed, right? And that was a challenge. So there had to be some changes, and now with V2 we are on a new internal backend platform, and we're building a new layer that provides that API. It's not so much that there is obviously a level of security and concern. The piece about building out features bit by bit is just because we are literally having to go through that whole process again, rather than just saying, here's the whole platform. Here's a GraphQL or other interface to the entire backend that we don't know who you are and you might break by accident. Not your fault, not your intent. But it's meaningful to say, okay, this week we're going to build new likes features. This week we're going to build new blocks features. This week, or provide and introduce. So that's why things are coming out to some extent in dribs and drabs, and in a phased approach.
Okay. That makes sense. So I had a quick look at the chat. I know Joyce has just been saying no to everyone. No one has guessed what's the other most used APIs. There's been plenty of guesses, but keep guessing. That will entertain Joyce, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we had actually saying
should we dive in?
So glad he landed here. So glad you landed there. Yeah, go for it. Show us what you've got.
Let's talk. Let's see what's going on.
So yeah, I'll start by just kind of creating a workspace so that we have somewhere to kind of work from and start in. So I'm just in our team account here. So I will create a new workspace. Oh wait, no, I'm not going to. I'm in this workspace, which we'll stay in. This Twitch workspace. I will look at this other workspace that we have called Postman, or published Postman templates, and that tongue ties me every time I say it. And so this is the collection that I made that kind of ran the whole process of creating that Twitter hashtag search bot. And so Arlemy or Joyce, if you could link this in the chat, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so I'm gonna fork this this specific collection.
Joyce is
like magic. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. So I'll fork this, and I'd love to brag and say that 4 people found this and made a cool hashtag Twitter bot search, but I think 3 at least of them are me, and probably
you can actually look on the right. You can see who forked it if you go on the on the right hand side, all the way to the right. Yeah, there's one that is the forks. If you keep going down, this is the pull request. Yeah, okay, and this one. So you're not.
Oh, because I'm not. You're not the right account.
Yeah, you're not the admin of the collection, so it doesn't display. Fair enough.
Gotcha. Well, okay. Let's just assume it's 4 random people, and not me.
Yeah, it's 4 people that
build random, extremely.
But it's 4 Sean Keegan accounts. Yeah. Cool. So I'll fork this, and I'm going to pull it into the other workspace so we can work on it there. Mm-hmm. So forking is basically just copying, this collection into my own workspace so that I'm able to work on it. So we'll call it Twitter stream, and I'm going to put this into the Twitch workspace, fork it.
Cool.
Send it.
It's very fitting, Arlemy, given that I'm in Vermont and skiing is big here, so I love it. Okay, So now I should have this Twitter hashtag search collection. I'm going to star it just to bring it up to the top. Sorry, everything's so zoomed in, so it's hard to.
If you star it goes to the top. I see. Cool.
Yeah. So that's a nice. Yeah. If you have like a lot of collections, it's nice to be able to.
So that's really neat. I didn't know.
Yeah. Cool. So I'll also point out. So there's some authorization stuff in here that I have. So I actually started from the Twitter API V2 collection, and so I kind of use that initial folder for the authorization stuff that's handled there.
Yeah.
Right. So all this stuff is in the collection, and I was able to use. And so
you pulled that from the Twitter official collection. Or did you write all this? Okay.
No, yeah. Twitter Postman. Let's see.
Joyce is in the chat, I think, as well.
Yeah. Okay. This is. I feel like I have to get better at finding what I want to find.
Team profile. Yeah.
Check the chat. Should just put it back there again. Oh, it's right there. Actually, it's the second one. Twitter's public workspace.
Yeah. Okay.
And for you are watching, I personally own this workspace, so in terms of like my day job. So if you have feedback, then please tweet me, because I would like to know how we can make it better. You can see that my face is right there on the public workspace page. So we know that we can continue to improve this. So I genuinely would like to hear from you.
So you can tweet them, or you could also leave a comment directly on the
in the public workspace. I see where you're going.
So if I wanted to do that, Army, if I wanted to leave a comment, I can do it in quite a few places, right?
Yeah. You just gotta either toggle at the top right. You see you've got the kind of pencil. Or you go in the comment section.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Cool.
Hey, Andy. I won't do it now, just so that Andy doesn't have a random "Hey, Andy" comment in their public workspace.
John's asked in the chat, is it possible to save export this collection? It seems disabled. I will look at that if I've broken something in terms of a setting. We also have the collection on our github.com/twitterdev GitHub profile. So you can or should be able to import it from there if you cannot use it through Postman. But if you can't, then I've done something wrong. And
it shouldn't be broken. So I think as a user, you're able to fork, but not to export. So that's the default. What Sean just demonstrated before, when you fork a collection, which brings it into your account. I don't think, because you can see here it's disabled. Like you can see on Sean's screen at the top right, the save is disabled. This is only available for the owner of the collection.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. As Kevin says, you can fork it into your own workspace, and that will allow you to do the kind of custom work and testing it in your own workspace. But yeah, so this is where I started from. I actually pulled this collection into my own collection, and then from there, really I initially thought one thing, Andy, that I'm curious about. Initially, it talked about needing quite a few different authorization credentials. I was able to get by with just the bearer token.
Correct.
I don't know if that. Okay, and that's
so this is an OAuth thing. If you're not familiar with the way that some of these authentication things happen, so you're right. It does say you will need all of these values. You do not need all of those values. You need between 1 and 5 of those values. In our developer portal today, when you create a new app, we do now offer you the bearer token directly that you can copy and paste. Really quick difference between two types of OAuth 1, unfortunately. OAuth 2 is coming to Twitter API. Very, very basic distinction. If you are operating as a user, then you need the consumer key secret, access token, and token secret. And what that gives you, the access token and token secret, means that when Sean is calling the API knows that it's Sean. And the API knows that Sean follows Alamy and Joyce and Andy. Even, if Andy has blocked Sean, which I'd never do, obviously, then you couldn't see my tweets. If you are operating anonymously just as an app, then we use something called the OAuth 2 bearer token flow, which is formed from the consumer key and secret. That's essentially the difference. So you can completely, for search especially, get by just using the bearer token. You're an anonymous user. You have a rate limit associated with your app, and you can carry on with that details.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for that, Andy. That makes sense. Awesome. Yeah, so I have forked it into this workspace that I can work in here. And so, you can see, I've documented it. It kind of talks through how to go about getting, searching for a specific hashtag. So let's actually dive into what's happening here. I don't have an environment, which I will need. And so let's bring in the environment from this collection here. So this, or no.
You probably have to, if it's in a public workspace, you can't fork environments yet. So you'll have to recreate it. Or share it if it's in the same account.
Yeah. And the environment is just containing your environment, basically, right?
Yeah. So I guess I don't need it in particular, but if I wanted to, I think it's helpful to see sharing that environment. So I know I want this Twitter hashtag environment. Right now it just has these placeholders. I could go ahead and
you can't
export it this way. Yeah. But I could do the export and then import.
Yeah.
But really, since all we're going to need is this bearer token, I won't bother with the import and exporting. I'll just create this new environment called Twitter search. I will add a bearer token. And I'm going to put this off screen for a sec so I can add my bearer token in there and don't display it. So give me 1 sec.
That's the one thing we're missing on this new setup. It's the old blurry screen when we try to play with tokens. But hopefully it's going to come. John's now making a guess that the GitHub API is the other most popular one. I don't know. I wish I could answer, but even I'm not being told what it is. So hopefully.
Cool. Okay. So that should be in there. All right. So now
it's a no. Joyce is just. I can see her just typing.
Yeah, Joyce is just like bang. No. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So I basically took, so from here, this is Twitter's collection. This is tweet lookup.
Correct.
I was messing around. I wanted to get multiple tweets. So I found this. This was easy enough. Everything was great. But
go on.
There were a few things that kind of confused me. And so to be fair, I was a little bit rushed. I wanted to get this. We wanted to set it up by Postman Galaxy. So I was just trying to code away and not really read anything. So I was like, all right, how do I find a hashtag? I don't see anything for hashtags. And so that was the first thing that I was wondering about was if I want to query something, right, there's this, there's a query field.
You're in the wrong place, I think.
Am I?
Yeah, you're trying to get multiple tweets, but what you actually want at the moment, you're searching for tweets, right? So where you are, tweet lookup, is fine for getting tweets if you know the tweet IDs. So where you want to go is search tweets, I believe.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Which
and this was
query, so you can actually.
That's where I'll see that query thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So this is where you see that query field. And And so this was the next issue was, okay, how do I search for a hashtag? Because if I put hashtag.
So what does the description of the field say? Okay.
Query matching tweets up to 512 characters.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to come back into my thing. We can see what happens if I do this.
Yeah. One thing I'll say to you, Sean and Alami, is that the search API, the recent search API, is limited to 7 days. So if nobody has tweeted hashtag Postman Galaxy within the last 7 days, then you won't get any.
Won't get anything.
Just so you know.
Time to get my fake Twitter account.
Your hashtag to something more current. I was about to say more popular, but I don't mean that, because obviously Postman Galaxy is very popular. But
it's okay. It's okay.
So I'm actually going to fork this into the Twitch workspace as well, so I can work with this one as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's Twitter stream. I'll pull it into here. And now I'll be able to actually play with it, because before, like the thing we were talking about earlier, where I won't be able to actually do anything in Twitter's public workspace, but now I should be able to. So I'm going to star this one. So it's already in here, but.
Yeah, this star keeps disappearing. We need to.
I
know. So I think you need to go away and then come back.
Follow me. I literally, that footstep right there, just so you know, is all Doctor Who books.
So
there we go.
The hint that Joyce gave is that so number one is Twitter, and number two is an API that is timely of the times. So I thought maybe Doctor Who, if there's an API, someone said the John Hopkins COVID dashboard, the wartime API, but then the other hint is Scott Hicks is closer. I actually do not know who that is.
Yeah, should I know Scott Hicks? No. If someone can help us out, Joyce is giving us cryptic hints that are not necessarily making it easier for me.
Anyway, let's call it Twitter API. Sorry. Yeah.
Twitter API. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if I search tweets, so this is where I was playing with before, right? So if I tried Postman Galaxy, you can see it automatically converts it to %23, the URL code. So, okay, so now we're getting unauthorized.
Oh no! Have you got your environment set correctly?
So you check.
You just forked there, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the bearer token is set.
Where do you use the bearer token? Is that it's at the collection level.
Can I click this, Arlemy?
I mean, it's like, again, whenever we leak something, we just they seem to be set because they're orange and not, so you have nothing here.
Yeah. Okay. So I should set it here instead of the environment.
Try to put it here. Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the easiest way of setting. Just put the bearer token right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
So for anybody that does pick up our collection, and this is something I need to work on as well. Before we used to put the bearer token in the Twitter app dashboard, the bearer token is formed from an API call with the consumer key and secret. So that's what that pre-request script was doing, was basically using, if you have those two values, it would get you your bearer token. And then we simplified it and said, here's your bearer token in the dashboard. And that seems to have confused a lot of people, so I need to work on it.
Cool.
Okay, let's try again.
All right, let's send it, see what happens.
No.
Unauthorized again.
Interesting.
Okay. Awkward. Let's see if... So this one
works.
Headers? Okay, so
I would say check so see, here you have one that is set up from the collection, and you can tell. So don't click on it, because that's going to destroy your token. But then go to the other request, previous one that you were trying to do. And this one doesn't have a header, see? So it's not set up. So go to the auth tab. and make sure that it inherits. Okay, it does inherit.
Mhm.
Let's see if the folder inherits. Okay, and then save your changes then, because you've not saved. You can see there's an orange button on the
Yeah.
Save it. See if that doesn't seem to add the header though.
Okay. So now
What's going on in the
trying to
headers?
figure it.
If you go to the headers response tab, the bottom one, what is it showing? It's not showing any auth.
Issue. So what you can do,
That's a response, not the request. Sorry.
If you open the console, Sean, and we can go into some quick debugging. Missing required environment variable consumer key. So it's actually
is it because you've got those things checked still?
Oh, and I'm not actually. Yeah.
And you're
so
not.
If I make it,
I don't know. I might be mistaken, but
let's try.
Live debugging on the internet is great. And honestly, this is one of the reasons why I really enjoy the Postman Twitch streams.
You watch us.
We see it from the other side.
No, I mean we do. we do. You all do go through these steps, and it's useful to learn, right? Everybody makes mistakes.
Our product team always says they learn a lot from these streams and the pain we go through as we try and debug stuff or use APIs from the.
If you, Sean, go back there and uncheck those 4 top values, does that make a difference or not? I might be mistaken. No.
Actually, says we've all been there. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to figure out what do I have set here. That's. Oh, well, I wonder if I want to change it to.
It's actually fine. You can show it because it doesn't show the whole thing.
Yeah, nobody's going to be able to do that, frankly.
Yep.
Do I want to change this to bearer token?
What's it set to? It's auth 1.
Oh, auth 1.
What's the options? I don't actually know what the options are there. Try a bearer token.
Okay, and then put your token in the little box at the bottom.
Oh, you have to do that.
Okay.
So you can just use the variable and you do like the call it, how do you call them? Curly brackets. Yep. Bearer token. Cool. Okay. And now let's save that. Let's try again.
All right. Let's see.
Please.
Hey. There we go.
You like data? Okay. Well, I'm very happy with data.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
So yeah, what you're getting back there, you've done a query for hashtag Postman Galaxy, and for each tweet, so that it's enclosed in that data array, and for each tweet by default, you just get the tweet ID and the text.
Which is great, right?
In the previous version of the API, you would have got a shed load of additional information. But in V2, we're giving you the minimum information that's useful, i.e. the text. And if you want more information, you can ask for it.
You got to ask. Cool. So yeah, let's figure out how to start asking for the stuff I needed.
Yeah.
So from here, so I got here, right? And this is basically where I was like, okay, I've got some information. Right. Now let's get more. Let's get the stuff I need. So I was looking at some of these various things, and I thought, I saw this user fields. Okay, this seems like what I want. I want to know who's saying this stuff.
Yeah.
So these are the values you can add. So created at description. So I'm going to add this one to start. Let's see what else we can do. Let's see, location name. So that's one I want. I'll add name. And
name is different to username. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So name is display name, right? And then username is the @ and
is the handle. I believe.
Yeah. Well, again, we've changed terminology because we're trying to simplify things and make it more usable to people that use the platform versus people understanding what a handle is.
Yeah.
Back in the day, in the very beginning of Twitter, first of all, updates weren't called tweets. They were called status updates. And so now when you get the text, you get the tweet text. You don't get the status text. So yeah, we're trying to be more sensible. But we have 15 years of history to contend
to convert. Yeah, cool. So let's. So this is an interesting thing, Andy. So the default values say ID, name, and username.
Yeah.
Right. So that would lead me to believe that if I clicked send, I didn't have anything here, that I should get those values. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is the part of what I was running into. Right. So I'm still just getting back the ID and the text, even though my guess would be that I should be getting back the ID, the name, and then a username.
Yeah, you'd think that.
Actually,
yeah. So this is where. Go ahead, Arlen.
It would be interesting to see how you went to the docs as well and kind of tried to figure that out using the Twitter docs. Because I don't know, did you actually just look at the collection, or did you do some site search on their developer portal as well?
I did a bit of both. I was going back and forth between the Twitter collection and the Twitter documentation. So we can pull that up and see.
Developer.twitter.com, yeah. Or whatever you search you're going to use, but docs at the top. Documentation. I don't know why we have made it so many clips. Twitter API. Early access, which is V2. Yeah, so see what's available. And then the new you're on the left-hand side, the new Twitter API. Under tweets, you'll look for search if that's what you're using, search tweets. But what this isn't telling you, it's fundamentals. So you're learning right now about fields, i.e. the different data values you can get back through the API. And then the key part of the problem that you want to solve, Sean, is something called expansions. And this is where we come into the GraphQL-ish view of the new API. So if you go and click on fundamentals on the left-hand side under new Twitter API, fields and expansions. So expansions basically enable you in a single API call to say, as well as giving me the object that I'm asking for, the tweet, I would like you to expand additional information that comes from another object. And in our case, we want to get the user ID. So inside data, as you can see right here, this is saying we've got the text, which is the thing that we and the ID, which are the basic elements that you get back with the tweet. But we've also requested in this API call any attachments, so media, and we've also asked as a field for the author ID. Once you've asked for the author ID, you can then say to the API, I would like you to expand the author ID. I would like you to say who Andy Piper is, or who Jack Dorsey is, or who Biz Stone is inside my tweet object. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so I think this is the part, where I kind of blame my lack of reading and just like desire to just get in and start coding quick,
sure.
On like not finding more stuff, because it's certainly here, right? Like you see author ID, you see
but still that's a truncated bit of information, that particular thing we're looking at right now. I agree. You don't actually have. I happen to know and believe that author ID, if you were to expand it, would be the Twitter dev account, because I wrote that documentation. you have to request the field that you want to expand in order to expand it in your response. So if you go back to your Postman,
so if I'm looking here, go ahead.
Well, so what you want here is to go in and say, I would like tweet field of author ID. And then you want to say, I would like to expand the author ID. So if you select tweet fields and say author ID, and then as part of that request, say expansions author ID, then...
So real quick question, Andy. If I were to click send now, I would not get this other information, right? Okay, so I would get author ID.
But you don't get the fully expanded author ID object. So
this is where I get the expansions.
Exactly. This is where and this is powerful, but it is confusing, especially if you're not familiar with it. So if you were to select now expansions and say author underscore ID, fingers crossed, I'm hoping that I'm not like an idiot in 30 seconds time.
So here's our...
so those are all your tweets.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have includes.
Okay. And
so those
is where we're getting...
And again, what you can say in your user fields, which you've selected, but you haven't actually asked specifically for values in the user fields, but you can then in user.fields say, as part of that user object, I want these fields returned as well. So right now, the user object is being returned as ID name and username.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to,
I could add in
whether it's verified or the profile picture or whatever those values are that are there, you could say, give me those extra fields as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so this location will also come up under this user's data now if I click send again?
Yeah, in theory. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very...
Mary. I love Mary. She's great.
That's a very detailed way to just write the piece of information that you want. That's an interesting way to do the requests. Now,
something that Alami and Sean and I spoke about the other day when we were prepping for this, behind the scenes, is that you've just seen that JSON object that's come back from the API is essentially in two parts, right? So you've got the array of tweets and you've got the array of user objects. So what Sean might have to do now, if he wanted to use that data and say that tweet that his cursor is over right now, who is that author ID 936 ... He would have to
match this, right?
Back into the separate section of the JSON object. So again, it's partly, well, there's three reasons for this. That's how this data is represented inside Twitter, right? So we literally have tweets and users and places and all of these other things as separate entities in our database, and the back end of Twitter is connecting them all up when you get it on your screen. We are trying to be more sensible in terms of the data we return, rather than just giving you this massive blob of data, which may or may not be useful. And we are also trying to cut down on so if a single user has tweeted multiple times in that set of search results, that user will still only show up once in the database, right? So yeah, you're going to have to do some kind of map reduce / lookup selection if you want to map the author ID to the user that's come back.
Gotcha. Author ID versus ID, what's the difference there? So it looks like we're getting ID back in this.
Yeah. That is a good question. And I have to think about it. User fields, ID name, username, location. Anne, that's a great question. Let me come back to you, Anne, in just a moment. Yeah. I have seen your question. Thank you. I think the ID is the tweet ID. How do you match up? So can you just? I can't see. Obviously, I can't see your whole screen, Sean. So if you can go back to the there you go, the JSON. So we've got author ID, which is a tweet ID, and then an ID for users. I still think the ID of those users is going to be the author ID in the tweet. I might be mistaken.
Is it like you have an ID for each element?
Yeah, exactly. They're all unique.
Okay.
So in principle, the includes.users.id is the same as author ID inside the tweet, but I can't see and I can't prove that right now.
Fair enough. I mean, either way, we should be able to match up ID with ID.
Historical comment. Twitter started out with some with relatively sequential IDs. But if you were to create a username now, a new Twitter user now, you would get a really long 64-bit number as your ID, because we've had to move to a much bigger system over time. So it's perfectly possible that author ID 9362419 mine is 786 and 941. Those are earlier users that were before we moved to fully 64-bit IDs. So I might be wrong, but that's my guess.
That was a question from Anne.
Yeah, thank you, Anne, for asking. How would you query what field options are available to select? There is no API for querying. It is documented, and it is in the collection. So as Sean is looking at the Postman collection right now, those documentation fields do say these are the allowed value. These are the values that you can use. I know that is a bit annoying, but those are the values that you can request. The other thing to say is, if you look at our sample code on GitHub, Twitter Dev, we do have, for V2, we do have samples that let you go and find all of the different fields. And I believe, and I'm doing this from memory, that my colleague Emily yesterday posted a new data dictionary on our documentation page. Thank you for sharing that, Sean. Yeah, that's the Twitter API V2 sample code, which is done by endpoint. But I'm pretty sure that the new docs that Emily shared, I think yesterday, for the new data dictionary, show you both a mapping between v1.1 and v2, and also a list of all the different fields that you can go query for. And the other cool thing is, with our community that are building the libraries for the v2 API, which is amazing, many of them are sending you all of the data back, which is fine. I mean, it wasn't how we built the API, but a lot of people are used to getting all the data back. So a lot of the libraries for Python and JavaScript and so on, they by default automatically request all of the fields. You're very welcome. And again, please do tweet at me or come chat with us on our dev forums if you have any questions about that.
Okay. Do you want to get into the matching part?
Sure.
I don't. But if Sean's feeling JavaScripty, then let's do it.
I do have one other question that popped up. I don't know if we talked about it, Andy. John's work alias asked about Cashtags. Is there a way to search for like a GameStop or ticker?
Yeah, no, John, that's a fair question as well, mate. Thank you for asking. As of today, searching for Cashtags, and what we mean by a Cashtag is a dollar, as you posted there, dollar GME, or it's a stock ticker. In V2, those things are limited to paid tiers of the API, and in the future, we will expand how those things become more available. But if you were to search for a Cashtag right now, you'll get a message back saying this operator isn't available. So right now, today, in you can, in v1.1, you can get that if you're an enterprise customer or a premium customer. And I'm not here to sell you Twitter API products. I'm really not. I'm just here to chat with my friend Sean and Alami. That's the truth about how things are right now. I am looking down. We've got Lara and Yoast. Lara, really quickly, because I know that we want to do some other things, or we might want to do some other things. Lara, your question about full archive search. Full archive search in V2 is an academic product. So if you're an academic researcher and you apply and you can demonstrate that you are from an academic institution, we can give you access to searching all of the tweets, essentially, rather than just the last 7 days. I don't know the answer to your question. I would encourage you, your question being about transforming from JSON to Excel, I would encourage you, Lara, if you can, to come to twittercommunity.com, which is our developer forum, and ask in the academic research category, because I think that my co-workers, Jess and Suhim, can probably help you. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Yoast, also thank you very much for your question about tracking follower changes. I have no extra information for you right now about like what Twitter's developer platform is planning to do. We do have a channel where you can ask for API features. Right now, we're in a space where we're basically trying to re-implement everything that is in the v1.1 API on the v2 platform, and that's why you see us incrementally adding new endpoints every month or two. The good news is that as we do that, we are adding new functionality. One of the things I think people will enjoy is that when the new likes functionality comes out soon, you'll be able to get a lot more information about the number of people that have liked, or the individual people that have liked particular tweets. So stay tuned for that. But unfollows, I can't tell you anything, Yoast. I'm really sorry about that, but there's no point in me sitting here promising you stuff that I don't know anything about. So
wait, you don't do that?
Yeah, that's helpful. When I was messing around, I actually GameStop was super hot, so I just searched for like the hashtag GameStop, and obviously couldn't get the hashtag, but hashtag will certainly pull up quite a bit. Here's some people complaining about not being able to buy PS5s, which cool. Yeah, let's see if we can kind of sync up. So I have these two objects now, right? I have this data object, and I have essentially, I believe it's the user's object.
The data, it's the includes, which includes the user's object. So if you were to, as you can see, you've got like poll fields, place fields, etc. So you could also ask for polls and places and so on to be returned as separate things, and then you also have to do some munging to consolidate them into the same object.
Okay. So users, like each field that you end up doing will end up kind of being its own section.
Yes, but you still have to ask for the expansion. So
okay.
Right. So you'd have to say expansions, media or place or whatever, and then arguably say in the dot fields, I also want these extra bits in that object that comes back.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see if we can't get these together. So I'll go to this test tab for anybody watching not familiar. We have pre-request script, which is JavaScript code that runs prior to a request being sent, and this test tab runs. This code will run after a request is sent, and you have your body. So let's take a look at our response. So I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now. I have it. I'm going to look at what I did for my actual things. I don't remember what we call everything. My computer's going super slow. Sorry about that.
Sean Keegan needs to go back and look at old code.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to copy these two for now and just bring them over. All right. So the JSON response is just pm.response.json. And if I look at this, so I'll send this now. I should have done a console log so we can see what we get. Console.log. And so this will give us that whole thing that we were looking at here, this object. And this is kind of how I go through. I'm not using JavaScript every day anymore, so sometimes I'm a little rusty, and this is kind of how I check and make sure I've got everything that I want and that I'm working with. So I'll come down here, I'll just log everything in the console, make sure JSON response is what I'm looking for. And in this case, everything's so tiny. Yeah, so the data, this is that data object that we were originally seeing before we added any expansions, I believe, right? And if I can expand this, we get kind of that basic information. And then this includes, I imagine we'll see users or something.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
And you've got five items in the data array, but you've only got 4 in the includes array. So presumably one of those users has tweeted more than once.
Said something twice.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So now let's go ahead. So data is actually going to be my initial information, like this initial array. So I'm going to also say users is this JSON response dot, I think it was includes.users. Is that right?
You passed it. Yeah, includes.users.
.users. Okay. All right, and we can just double check that we've got what we're looking for. All right, let's just check and see that we've got. Cool. All right, so we've got this array of users. We've got the information we need. Right, so now we have their username, their name, and this location. So now if I want to kind of get them all into one, I guess this is where I would want to do some fancy JavaScript.
There could be multiple tweets for one user, but it can't be multiple users for one tweet. So we probably want to start with the users and then match it to as many tweets as they may have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably a better way. The first way of solving this off the top of my head, which will probably make anybody who's an actual coder barf, is doing some nested for loops.
If it works, it works.
Yeah, I like that. Right, we can optimize later. So let's say for I equals 0, I less than users.length, I plus plus, and now we'll loop through our data. So for j equals 0, j, we call it data, so we'll go less than data.length. All right. And now we want to say We want to find those matching. What's the same thing? ID is the thing that's going to overlap, right?
Yeah, I think it's ID, and yeah, it should be that ID should. You might want to just do a quick search and check. If
Yeah, you could search
one
the
of
response.
those just inside the response. So grab one of those IDs
Oh, and just seeing.
and just double check, because I'm not remembering well how this works. So yeah, so that's showing up 3 times. So in principle, yeah. So it's
Cool.
author ID and ID. That's a bit
Cool.
confusing, but it's author ID in the tweet object and ID in the user object, just to annoy you and make your life more complicated.
But I
So
think
that's a good example of one that has 2 tweets, right? Like that person.
Yeah, that's exactly that.
we picked the right one. Yeah.
That example. So that author ID field in the user object maps to the in the data object maps to the ID field in the user object, which is
cool.
Annoying. And
That's true. Yeah.
I've been using the old API for 10 years, and this stuff, while it's flexible, does kind of frustrate me.
I used to use the one a lot with Node-RED, which I think you're familiar with as well.
Yeah.
And it was very, very fun to just loop through using some Node-RED nodes, and because it was all the same name, it was pretty easy to.
Alami, you and I have both worked at IBM. Do you know our friend Nick?
Oh yeah,
who,
of course,
who's one of the co-founders of Node-RED. He yesterday left IBM.
Did he?
After 20 plus years, I think. So yeah, he tweeted last night.
Okay, that's a big news for me.
Yeah, exactly. Go check out his his tweets. Oh, John, amazing! Yeah. I worked on WebSphere at IBM on MQ and MQTT and stuff. So I was there for 10 years. I had a lot of exposure.
It's always there's always this thing that you'll always find someone that worked at IBM to some degree, like because so many people in tech have worked there or have had some family members that've been there. That's always been quite impressive.
Well, and this is totally inside baseball, it's personal stuff, but I grew up I went to school in Portsmouth in the UK, and IBM had one of their big facilities there. So, this is definitely my background. Apologies to those of you that are, the ex-IBM is chit-chatting while Sean does the work. Sean is
it's off my bad code.
I love it. It's going to work. He's going to hit that run button, and it's just going to do everything we wanted.
I was going to say it's the IBM spirit. You just chat while the others do the work. But
yes. Yeah, that too. Oh, no.
Okay, what happened?
No, it is still no. Ignore the consumer key thing because it's still calling the API. What?
So you've created a new. Oh no, that's still the same console log, right?
I can't tell. I'm going to run it one more time and see. Okay, so now.
Oh,
okay.
I'm pretty sure you can just ignore the consumer key error.
Yep.
Okay.
So in theory, this you building, Sean? Sorry, I was too busy chatting with Alami about my game day.
No worries. Yeah. So what I tried to do here was add in into this data object. I wanted to add some new fields.
Yeah. So you're saying if there's a user author ID that matches the data ID, then add the name and username. Yeah. Okay.
There's a possibility I have my I's and J's in the wrong spot.
So you're adding to the existing object, basically.
Yeah.
Just putting
that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, you're not creating a new array. You're just using the same array. Okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't show. Oh, does it show? I didn't check the console.
It was not showing in the console, so I don't need. I'm gonna. Yeah. So this is data. The data array after those operations ran. and I'm not seeing these new fields
Yeah,
added
which
in.
is basically the same as it was before. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Okay. Can you
so you've got wait. In the response though, you've got data, and there's also JSON response. Is that the JSON response from the API call you made? I'm confused.
So in the console?
Yeah. So here, right. So you've got JSON response users and data. So yeah. So okay. Yeah. I see.
This was the initial. Yeah. So
Gotcha. Right.
So if you can show the test again. Let's see where your console login, your array, is it at the very end of the test? Okay. And yeah, it's probably just that you can't add new entries to your object like that. You need to create a new object.
I'm sure you could do that.
I just asked a really good question as well, and I just want to see if we can clarify this. So, when you get the tweet object back in the data, you get just the tweet ID, which is unique, and the tweet text by default, unless you ask for more fields. We're also then asking for the author ID. Oh yeah, so
I think the ID actually does match ID now that I look at it, Andy.
You are right. Yeah, I'm wrong. I messed that up.
So if I change this to just ID, because yeah, I think Orlami, I think this should work. I think it just might have never been hitting this.
Okay.
This.
Yeah, no, I think I was just completely wrong about what I said.
Yeah, John's work alias has a good little debugger trick. Well, let's see if this did it, and if not, we'll do that. Show us username. No, okay.
So let's go for John's trick and see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'd say right before the if, can you console log user i.id and data j.id?
Yeah. Sorry. What do you want to do?
The values that you have in the condition, so just so we can see that it's getting something and it's not.
Like what I and J are?
Yeah. What users?
The
i.id and.
And data j equals looking at, we got some, you might want to loop to data first and then users. With users on the outside, I think you would end up only hydrating the user once, even if the same tweeter.
Okay. This is somebody who's clearly used the Twitter API because they're using terms like hydrate that we use.
I think you're missing the clause on the console log. You're missing a parenthesis there.
All right.
Okay, so it's written
object. I love object. My favorite part of JavaScript.
Yeah, this is the riveting content people tune into the streams for here.
So what we do see is that it never goes into the condition, and it's because it's comparing to object instead of two values, right?
It looks like that.
So how do we get to the right thing? Why is that not returning what we want it to return?
So Andy, there might be a good question for you.
I've just seen that question. I'm happy to talk about it. I don't want. If you and Alami don't mind, I will answer that.
Go for it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll mess around.
You, and you guys can maybe just do some more poking at the code. Yeah, Sam. Thanks for the question. So the way that Twitter is built and works is that everything has an ID, and whether that's a tweet ID or a user ID or a place ID, and the hydration process is basically the process of getting the data from the database that matches up to those IDs. So technically, when you make a call to the API, or when your Twitter app on your phone is asking for tweets, there's a ton of matching going on the back end, very, very fast, which is one of the cool things about the technology. But I don't work on the back end. That is literally saying, tweet ID 123 has this text in it, and that also contains a user 10 that is Andy Piper or Jack Dorsey or whoever. I love comparing myself to Jack Dorsey. That really makes me feel better. And pulling it all together into a single tweet. So that's what hydration is essentially, is fully expanding from that single value that we started with, which is the tweet ID, and going in to the back-end databases and saying, I need, in order to display that tweet to whichever user is looking at that tweet at this moment, I need to go and get the user information, the avatar picture, the location information if that's been associated with the tweet, or the user information. So that's essentially what hydration is. One of the challenges with using the API, or it's not really a challenge, it's just it's a nicety, is that if you delete a tweet, then that tweet is no longer available. It's gone, no more. There is no way of getting it back from the API because it's a deleted thing. So we ask in the API guidelines or the API requirements that if you do get tweets and you are storing tweets, then you should really only store the ID and go back and hydrate them from the source. Because if that tweet's been deleted later, you won't accidentally be displaying something that's been removed from the platform. So there's a ton of sensitivity around that, and we do our best as a platform to try to keep our users' information safe. I hope that was useful. Where are we up to? We are currently playing with the data name username. Oh,
I think we're a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Okay, it goes in. Good.
Goes in. All right, show me names and usernames.
Do it.
Hey!
Boom! Nice work.
What was it? What was it?
I switched,
and Sean made it all work. That was great.
Yeah, I did some hand waving magic while people were distracted by Andy explaining hydration. No, I changed. I forget who, somebody had recommended trying something else first. Yeah, looping through the data first. So I tried that, and that seemed to help out. And I went back and switched again. Back to checking for author ID matching ID. So, Andy, I think we had you say that was not the case, then backtrack, say it was the case, and then backtrack. And
I'm confused. I think Anne tried, and the Kindle tried to help both there. There we go. I think I got confused. I apologize.
No.
If I'd stared at it long enough, then I'm sure I could have figured it out.
Yeah.
You had data before, you have users now.
There we go. Yeah.
So I think, that's I think we're coming out to the end and we managed to do something. And I think that's actually summarizes it pretty well, which is how we started. We started from what Sean had created. Andy helped him kind of understand how the Twitter API worked, and how you need to actually very define what you want to get by specifying, first, I want the tweet, but then I also want in this includes part some more details, and I need to specify. And we chatted about it, right? It's a bit like GraphQL. You really say exactly which bit you want to get.
Yeah.
But then Sean did some JavaScript magic and mixed it all together, because as we mentioned, when you get it first, it's two separate places. You have the data, which is the tweets, with the author ID and something else.
I am going to ask you, Sean, to send me that bit of code that you just wrote after this, because I need that. Listen, this is one of the reasons why, as I said at the beginning of the chat today, I've enjoyed joining the Postman Twitch streams, because I'm learning, we're all learning, we're making mistakes together, and the community are helping us.
That is.
And that's so cool. I mean, it's really cool. All I've done is sat here and waffled about some stuff, and I've learned things, and I watched things, and so that's neat.
Yeah, I think that. So obviously, we can't all run streams with Andy here to help, but they said they're available on Twitter if you want to tweet them, and if you have any questions. I think you've got the Twitter community that's been linked as well.
I mean, you're welcome to tweet at me, and twittercommunity.com is our developer forum, where, look, I'm one person. We have a team of more than me. So if you come and ask questions in our dev forums, then you're more likely to have more bandwidth, and there's a community of other people. So that's not me saying I can't help you, but that's me saying that if you want more opportunities to get an answer, then come ask in the forums.
The Kindle says, I think I was wrong about the ordering mattering, by the way. well,
it worked for us. We're giving you credit.
I was actually thinking the same way, because it's two loops anyway, so you would loop through it all whichever way you would go. Question for Andy: is the way of creating the API, asking for expansions and so on, some kind of common practice? Any other people following this approach?
That's a good question, Renee. Thank you. So I kind of interpret the question that you're asking as a RESTful API versus GraphQL type API question. I might be mistaken, and apologies if that's not what you're asking. We have tried with the V2 API not to go fully to GraphQL, not because we hate it. We use it internally. It's useful, but because a large number of our existing developer community of the last 10 years are more familiar with a RESTful API interface, and but we did want some flexibility. We want to provide some of the flexibility that GraphQL provides. That whole, ability to request individual fields and expansions, and figure out the objects that we want. Are other companies following this approach? I don't know. I haven't looked. I have not gone around and done a survey of internet API companies.
We did.
I think that it works. It's frustrating to me personally, because I've done stuff where for 10 years I haven't had to go and granularly ask for every individual field. And I'm learning, and that's why I jokingly but very seriously, Sean, I need that code, asked for the the ability to munge stuff back together. And we hope that it's useful to you. And if it's not, come and tell us in our forums. I mean, my job in developer relations is not to just help you and answer all your questions. I get to be the person that represents you and tells our product team and our engineering team, you could have done this differently. And these 17 people told us that. And that's one of my privileges and benefit. Thank you, Renee. And I agree with you. The old blob was enormous to look through, and over time, as different things vanished or were just retired, that old blob of JSON had a ton of fields that were just null. And that was just a waste of space, I mean, it wasn't valuable anymore. So I agree that that it was not always the best.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're moving the filtering closer to the API rather than getting everything and then sorting yourself. Which also, like when we're talking about platforms like Twitter, when you get based on your query, you may get like megabytes of data. I imagine it's always good to be able to kind of sort that and I guess reduce the time to response as well.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Cool. So before hi. Someone who just joined, we're just closing out, but this video will be available on our YouTube channel later on if you want to catch up on it. So before we close, we do community shoutouts or just shoutouts in general, where you can shout out someone in your community. You can shout out some content for people that are watching us. Andy, if you have anything that you want to put out.
I'm just going to very quickly respond to John and say, thank you for that question about samples that provide all the different values and environment variables. As well as owning our Postman collection, I'm also responsible for our code samples. So I take that on board, John. Thank you for asking, and I will make sure that that's something that we can work on. Community shoutouts. Shoutouts to everybody that's building stuff around the V2 Twitter API. We've got a really Twitter has never provided our own SDKs and our own libraries for our API. We've just said, here's a RESTful interface which works over HTTP. Go call it. Here's some docs, and we have benefited greatly from a huge community of people that have built libraries in every language under the sun. And there's some really nice folks that are building stuff on V2, even though V2 today has a limited number of endpoints, and we don't have time to talk about it. And I did sort of hint at this earlier, but we're incrementally replacing the v1.1 API, not doing it all at once. Again, Alami and Sean and I talked about this the other day when we were preparing for this, and I said, oh yes, I'll make sure that I have a list of names to shout out, and I don't have that list of names in front of me. I just want to say thank you to everybody on GitHub and on GitLab and all the places where you're sharing code that uses our API. It's awesome, and it helps other people, and we appreciate it.
Very nice. Sean, anything you want to mention?
Yeah, I'm just going to shout out the folks that come to this stream every week and interact with us and make it a fun, enjoyable experience. It's as much as I love talking to Arlemy, we get to do that all the time. So, having new folks come in is really just super fun and makes this worth the while. So thank you for showing up.
Cool. Sean kind of stole mine anyway, so it doesn't matter. I will give a shout out to Joyce, who's been like just watching from the background and handling everything, and we called her on last minute because my internet wouldn't work. And yeah, I was going to give a shout out to that other API which is popular, which maybe
one or two, we're not sure whether it's first or second.
Maybe one day we'll make it public. I guess keep showing up to the streams, and But in the meantime, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Sean, for being here and running that stream with me. We'll see you all next Thursday for the next stream. And with that said, have a good day, have a good evening, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.